Chapter 2 today. Finish chapter 1. Sanjay Vacha Tam Tatha Kripaya Shupurna Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Vacha Madhusudanaha. Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudana, Krishna, spoke the following words. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him, the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion to the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose, Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self realization by an analytical study of material body and spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Okay, so a lot of important points here. Let's try to understand each of them. First is Prabhupada is saying material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of the ignorance of the real self. So if towards anybody, friends, family, relatives, etc., we are feeling material compassion. Oh, they're struggling, they're having so much of pain, they're having so much of trouble. Lamentation, feeling bad for them. And in case we are having tears on the due to material considerations, they are all signs of ignorance of the real self. See, such a strong line statement, first statement. On this whole second chapter where this Atma Gnana is going to be discussed, Prabhupada is very clearly highlighting that we should not be on the material platform. I was talking to someone who is not in ISKCON, who is following some other religious or spiritual so-called faith. And we were having some discussion and saying that, she is not able to, she's upset with, how people are dealing with her, etc., etc. Then I said, okay, see this, we have to be equipoised. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. We should not be too thinking on the material platform. Then she said, yeah, what you are said is true. We should actually show love to them. I said, I mean, this is ridiculous, right? On one end, you are not able to tolerate her. Now, how can you go from that end where you cannot tolerate to go and showing love for her, right? So this is all, material thought process saying that, you have to show love to all. I mean, we can't show. Prabhupada makes it very clear. We can show love to all when we love Krishna. Unless we come to the platform of loving Krishna, we cannot love everybody because we are not so elevated to love everybody. So this whole love, hate, all this is just ignorance of real self because all of that is just related to the material body, right? Nothing, none of that has anything to do with the real self. Now, having said that, people should not think, okay, will become hard-hearted. No, that is why Prabhupada is clarifying. Compassion for eternal soul is required. Compassion for material body is not required. Compassion for eternal soul is absolutely required. And what is that compassion? That is self-realization. That means that if we are compassionate towards anybody on the eternal soul platform, then we should bring them to the platform of self-realization. Right? So if we are having, if we are looking at people, and feeling material compassion, we should turn it to spiritual compassion by somehow bringing them to bhakti, right? And not simply remain on the material platform. So a lot of people say, okay, there are so many people who are having to go without food. Absolutely, yes. Reason being their own karma phala. But we will not say that and say, okay, we don't have any responsibility towards them. No, we want to help them. So we get them to the temple or we give them prasadam and we ask them to chant. And thereby we help them out of their material problems. Right? But not just simply think only materially without having any spiritual linkage to that. Right? Like, for example, same thing, simply giving food, right? But no, no consideration or no, um, not bringing them to, without bringing them to bhakti and simply trying to solve their material problems. Okay, I'll give them some money, we'll give them something. That's not of much use. This is very important. Also here, Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him. Of course, here in the discharge of duty, but generally, any misunderstanding we have with respect to pure devotional service has to be killed, because we are not here to do Mishra Bhakti. So if you want to do pure bhakti, what is pure bhakti? What is mixed bhakti? Pure bhakti is anyabhilashita shunyam. That means that we don't have any other motive but to serve the Lord for his satisfaction. That is pure bhakti. Mishra bhakti is, along with serving the Lord, we also have our own sense gratification, little bit material desires here and there. Right? So we want to tread the path of pure devotional service, and if there are any doubts that are preventing us from going on that path, we should kill them. Like, we should kill those doubts, right? Like, like if somebody is saying, why not sense gratification, or why not I go behind material accomplishments? Now all those doubts have to be killed, because that is not what Krishna is wanting us to do in Bhagavad Gita. He wants us to stick to pure devotional service, do our duty, work, etc. as a matter of just responsibility, duty, focus all our energies on path of bhakti. That is what is expected, right? If we have anything else that is distracting us, we should clarify it from, with knowledge from Bhagavad Gita, and then so that we fix our ways and what our priorities are, etc. Okay, this also, no one knows where compassion should be applied. Similarly, so mostly people are all simply on the compassion for dress of drowning man, which is senseless. So we have to bring people to the platform of bhakti. Otherwise, one who laments on the for the outward dress is a Shudra. Lord Krishna can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man. That means that once we come to read and study Bhagavad Gita, we should not have any lamentation in our life. If you are having lamentation in our life, then we have not studied Bhagavad Gita properly. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study, Sankhya Yoga. This is called Sankhya, analytical study of body and soul. This realization is possible. Okay, so this is a matter of realization. Realization means spiritual path has two steps. One is gnana, and then second is vijnana. Gnana is getting the information, knowledge, as Srila Prabhupada has given. Second is vijnana. Vijnana means practical application. So which means that we have to apply these things in our life. And Prabhupada is saying, when can we apply these things? When one works without attachment to fruitive results. So which means that if we are working, we are doing karma, we should not have attachment to the results. Okay. And we should be fixed in the conception of the real self, which means that we should know that I am not this body. So if we are positioned on these two platforms, that means that we are working without attachment to fruitive results, to our karma, and we are fixed in the conception that we are spirit soul and we are part and parcel of Krishna and that we are servants of Krishna, then only this realization is possible. Otherwise, it will just remain theoretical knowledge without any understanding of how to use it or what its relevance is in our life. But Bhagavad Gita without practical application is pretty much useless, because it is all about Vijnana, right? So this is not armchair philosophy. Armchair philosophy means we are just sitting in a chair and discussing stuff, and then after that we go our own ways and get involved in our life just like nothing has happened. That is not the intent of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means change. It brings about change in us, and especially the powerful purpose of Srila Prabhupada. Every line is life changing. So we should read with an intention of applying these statements. So today in our Kannada reading group, there's one good question saying that how do we remember these so many important things that are being discussed? I said, it's important that people have to make notes. The important points that I am highlighting here in the purport, those who are serious about incorporating these in their life should make note, right? Either create a digital note, handwritten, whatever you want, but make a note of these points and then try to figure out how to apply it in your life. And that is the only way we are going to make progress. We can't wait for some thunderbolt to strike one day when we are suddenly going to become pure devotees. That's not going to happen, right? It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work, and which requires continuous effort. And that continuous effort is by knowing what to actually incorporate. There are so many instructions. So when we have like 50 instructions that we note down, then we will say, okay, these are the next 5 things that I want to incorporate in my life. And then focus on those, put some effort, depend on Krishna, beg for mercy of Krishna and his devotees, and then slowly and steadily keep ticking off, right? It's like a list. So you tick off, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are done now. Next, I'll focus on next 3, like this, right? Till pretty much all instructions that are there in Bhagavad Gita, at least we should have, realized, or we should be practicing those in our life. And that is possible, Prabhupada is saying, only if we work without attachment for results and we are fixed in the conception that we are not this body. If these two platforms, if you are on these two platforms, then this realization, practical application of this knowledge is okay. Anybody has anything to ask, say this verse?
Yes.
Your internet is not good.
Uh,
Okay.
is it breaking, Raja, or am
No,
I audible?
now it's fine. Now it's breaking.
Yes, Raja. Raja, so when we see a devotee, again breaking,
No, go ahead.
I'll put in the chat first.
No, you're audible. You go
Okay.
ahead.
So when we see a devotee, or near and dear ones who are favorable to Krishna consciousness, they are in physical pain or in psychological pain. So if we feel pained by seeing that, is it on the material platform? Or?
Yeah, it's on the material platform. So if we are feeling pained that because of their bodily pain that they are not able to do bhakti, and how can I help them, then that's on the spiritual platform. If I feel pained that their bodily pain and that's it, then it's on the material platform. See, we should understand one thing. Just it's not that we become indifferent to these things. We do whatever is required. Like we have other responsibilities. Say, for example, if there's another devotee who is going through trouble, first thing that should come into our mind is, okay, now if there is anything I can do to serve this devotee so that he or she can come back to good health, then that person can continue his or her services. That should be our prime focus, right? And of course we don't like to see others going through trouble, but with that mood we should serve them, right? That should be the primary mode, because I mean, if we are on this path of bhakti and we continue to keep thinking about others on the material platform, then we're not making progress, because Brahmabhuta prasannatma na sochati na kanchati sama sarveshu bhuteshu. We have to see the soul and the super soul in every living entity. not the body.
Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else has anything to say, comment? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, like from many years, we've always heard like how you have done a lot of detailed study of Bhagavad Gita. So actually, I just got this thought in my mind, like Prabhuji, you have any like notes where you've written on all the instructions of Bhagavad Gita? If you can share that with
You
us.
you you want shortcut? Uh,
Actually,
no
honestly,
shortcut.
yeah, that's
No
actually true.
shortcuts. No, I have, but I'm not going to share because
Okay.
see this is hard work. Like I said, see what happens is when you just look at somebody else's, because I did this right when
Yes.
I was doing my own studies. I referred to various notes, but it didn't help me because see unless we actually go through the put the effort ourselves, because what is important for me may not seem important to you, or what is important to you may not seem important to me, and and so on, right? Like so when we are making the reading, and see this will not happen over one reading, right?
Mm.
It happen over multiple readings.
Yes,
So
Prabhuji.
first time we are reading, maybe out of this, see this whole purport that we discussed, um, so maybe like first time we okay. So let's see, right? If you just critically evaluate this purport and see how many of these points that we discussed we would have actually really taken up seriously for understanding, right, ourselves. First one we would have maybe just ignored. Material, compassion, lamentation, tears. Yeah, okay, that's fine, right? It just looks like a like starting sentence in a paragraph, and we might have just ignored, or we might ignore things like no one knows where compassion should be applied, or we might ignore things like Krishna can dissipate lamentation of ignorant men, because it's all like it sounds known, right? Or we might not have understood this realization is possible when one works with how, what is the relationship between these two and this. So when we are reading, we will first note down points that we are able to understand. Then we also have to write down points that we were not able to understand. And then there might be points which we understood, but which we don't think is important right now, which is okay, which we will come to later, right? But 2.2 aspects. Okay, since you asked, let me just show my notes. Um, okay, so this is my notes. Okay, now
It looks very detailed, Prabhuji.
so okay, so let me show this, right? So just for understanding. So I have like three color codings or four color codings here.
Okay.
Here. So you have four color codes here, right? One is just black, then one is bold, then there is orange, and then there is red,
Yes, Prabhuji.
right? So black means just like information, right? Dark means for preaching.
Mm.
Orange means for my own personal application. Red means either it's a verse or it's some doubt which I didn't understand. Either of them, right? So like this for each verse, as and how I am reading, I'm making notes saying that okay, this I didn't understand, right? Or this is important for preaching, right? Or this is important for my personal application. So like this, each of us will, based on our stages in bhakti where we are, we should be making our own notes. But see, we should understand one thing: if we don't make notes, we will not understand the linkages. Like, see, for example, now these verses are talking about sinful reactions. Now it's not like I have done all this. I've taken some from Bhakti Shastra that I did, some from various things, like I might have read some commentaries, whatever it is, right? Like, but the point is, all of it will come in one place, and it has to come. If anybody is expecting to understand Bhagavad Gita without doing study, then that's not possible, right? Because Bhagavad Gita cannot be understood like so easily. So we have to do study, and that takes a lot of effort. Like, I mean, one point of time, like when I initially came to Krishna consciousness, at least 3-4 hours every day I used to just read Bhagavad Gita and nothing else. Because if you don't understand this, then we can't move forward, right? That philosophy is like that. So anyway, I mean, if you have that time, then nothing like it, that you should spend that kind of time. But if you don't have whatever time you have, spend, but do notes, make notes. Whether, like I said, your handwriting, and because I still have some like maybe 10 books of notes that I had handwritten at one point of time, which now is useless. As in, but point is, I'm saying like there is a lot of effort involved in this. It doesn't happen just like that, right? So then we should get stuck, then we should keep thinking about those stuck points, then we should talk to other devotees, and that is why association of devotees is important, right? So we should associate with like-minded devotees who have read, or who are reading, who have interest to read, then gradually, on day-to-day basis, make progress, discuss notes. You can form your own little groups, whatever, right? However you want to do. Whole point is there needs to be effort. That is the very important point to be made, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So sorry, I won't be sharing my
No,
notes.
no,
You can
no.
all make
Thank
your
you,
notes.
Prabhuji. Actually, Prabhuji, Prabhupada always used to ask, do you study my books? He never said, do you
Yeah,
read my books?
read. Yeah.
Today, I actually practically understood that meaning of what is studying.
So,
Like you said, handwritten notes. I have so many, maybe diaries, but I never read them, Prabhuji.
yeah, so you do digital. That is what I said. Same thing with me. I had written all of those books, but I don't refer to any of them. But this online notes is now very handy, because any Bhagavad Gita class that I am giving, I just directly go to that particular notes that I've made, and I know what I want to be talking about, right? So it's extremely handy, and it's also, you will go see this, and that's a good point you made, right? Going back to your notes. When will you go back to your notes? When you have a need to refer. When do you have a need to refer? Only when you preach. If you don't preach, there is no need for you to go and refer to some notes, right? So preach, please preach. Whatever we know, we should share with others. We don't, I mean, obviously, Krishna says that we will serve based on our abilities that we have, that are given by Krishna's mercy. And if we are sincerely want to endeavor, Krishna will empower us, right? So we don't have to feel restricted or limited by our so-called material capabilities or whatever, right? Because that's all irrelevant. On the platform of bhakti, I mean, in my own life, I experienced we can go far beyond what we think we can do. And only when we want to purely serve the Lord and His devotees, Lord will empower. But preach, please preach, because otherwise we can't understand Bhagavad Gita. We can't. I mean, even today, I'm saying when I'm giving classes, there will be some things which suddenly Krishna will give that intelligence to understand, which I had maybe understood it in a very different way all these days. Suddenly now, today, it's some new light is being thrown, right? That is just Lord's mercy, and it keeps happening all the time, right? So more and more we are at it, the more we will understand Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.